best night of the week? That's because it's time for this week's episode of RfRx, your prescription for coping. And I'm not sure if you can see me right now, so let me adjust the layout so that you can. Okay, great. Perfect. So, welcome. Hi, I'm Kara. I'll be your host. And tonight, this is tonight's episode of RfRx. And just to let anyone know who hasn't been here before, Recovering from Religion offers hope, healing, and support to those struggling with issues of doubt and non belief. And RfRx is our weekly live stream show where we host guests who discuss topics that are relevant to folks in the RFR community. And so I have with me this evening returning co host Rob Palmer. Rob, how are you?
I am just fine, really looking forward to this particular episode.
I am too. I cannot wait. And tonight we are talking about the resilience of belief with Richard Saunders. And just as a reminder, Recovering from Religion is a nonprofit organization, and our shows are designed to generate conversation and engage our powers of reason. All of our guest speakers are presenting their own views, and people of any political or religious affiliation are welcome to participate in the show. And this is a safe space for members of the LGBTQ plus community. So we ask that everyone please keep your comments civil. If you disagree with someone in the chat, do so respectfully. And please respect the speakers, the hosts, the other guests, and yourself. And if you have any questions for our guest, feel free to drop them into the chat, and we'll gather those up and ask a few of them at the end of the show, depending on how much time we have left. So, with that, Rob, would you care to do the honors of introducing our guest?
I can. And when I'm speaking, I'm not seeing myself in this thing. So can you see me when I'm speaking right now? Is it
I
working that
think
way?
we have an interesting setting going on right now that
All
is
right.
not
We're,
showing the person
we're
who's
going to switch
speaking.
back to this thing because we know this works. That was very weird.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So Richard Saunders is a renowned Australian skeptic, documentary filmmaker, and TV personality known for his investigations and commentary. As the chief investigator of Australian Skeptics, he's made numerous television appearances, sharing his expertise regarding skeptical inquiries. He was also a member of the committee that ran James Randi's $1 million paranormal challenge. Saunders has received prestigious awards for his skeptical work, including a life membership and a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Australian Skeptics, and he is also a fellow of the Center for Inquiry. As the producer and host of the Skeptic Zone podcast, now in its 18th year, Saunders has built a global following with thousands of listeners tuning in to the weekly show. Welcome to RFRX, Richard. Richard is
And
muted.
you are muted. It would not be a live show without someone being muted. Oh, are you unable to? Here, I'll unmute you. Oh, nope, I remuted you. Okay, now you're unmuted.
You remute. That way, people around the world wish to remute me. It's nothing new. I promise you that.
And here we are platforming you. Our mistake.
That's
Just
right.
kidding.
That's right.
I don't think
That
it is a mistake.
big mistake. It's like you often hear in wellness circles about detox. Have this detox diet. You need to be detoxed. Well, I want to be retoxed. That's what I'm looking forward to. I want to be retoxed.
I just listened to a recent episode of the Skeptic Zone, where somebody was screaming at Richard from the audience.
Oh
Maybe we'll get to that
no.
later.
I kind of want to hear the
Screaming.
story about that.
Man.
Maybe we'll.
Well, so what a pleasure it is to be with you. I know the work that you do, and I think it's very valuable because once people fall out of a system which has been so important to them, it's been like cast adrift. It's being like thrown into the ocean. It can be mind numbing. It can be scary. So all power to people out there who come along and provide support. You know, we all need support from time to time. So I think this is a very worthwhile service. What I'm interested in through my quarter of a century of skeptical investigation into the side of the paranormal aspect is what I deal with.
Yes.
And I know a lot of religion is paranormal, let's face it. But where I come from in my investigations into the paranormal is the amount of belief, entrenched belief that goes along with that side of human society. And so I can talk about, and I want to talk about why people cling so tightly onto things that we investigate and we find it's lacking. You know, there's tangibly, it doesn't work. We know why they think it works, but people will still hold on to that. So that's the sort of discussion we might be having today, I think.
I'm always amazed at watching some of those things, like when you've run tests on people who claim they could do whatever, and we'll talk about the details, and then they fail, utterly fail, and then they have some excuse that no, they know they can still do it.
Yeah.
The test must have been something wrong with the
Well,
test.
that's a great start. A great start for us, Rob. Let me explore that issue. Now, when I was 15 years old or 14 or something like that, I was at home and watching the TV, and on in the afternoon came a documentary, 45-minute documentary starring a guy I'd never heard about before called James Randi. And he came to Australia in 1980, and he conducted a series of tests in what we know as water divining or water dowsing, sometimes called doodle bugging. And I think I don't have to tell most people what it's all about, but in case I do, it's where you get a rod like this or a fork stick or something, and you walk along and the rod will react. It'll swing about, which supposedly tells the operator that there's water underneath. So they're walking along the countryside, the rod is straight, and suddenly it goes, whoop, it does this. And this is an ancient belief. This is an ancient practice. Why it works, it's a fascinating dive into human psychology, why it works. It works, the rod swings, we know now after investigation and testing over decades, basically because the handle here is being tilted. It's being changed by the hand. The amazing thing is that when the water diviner is walking along with the sticks and the rod moves, they don't know that their hand is tilting. They are honestly completely unaware, and they'll attribute the movement of the rod to mystical forces. And once that belief system becomes entrenched in a person, especially the water diviners in the countryside who simply accept that it works because look, the rods move. And if they dig, they'll normally find water. Put all those things together, and you've got an almost self-sealing belief system based on what on the face of it is good evidence. You know, these people just don't believe this because they fall out of a tree and think, oh, I'll believe this. They believe it because they see other people doing it. They believe it because the rods actually move in their hands, and they believe it because when they're successful, they're successful. And this is also the same mechanism when it comes, and do I have something, maybe this thing, when it comes to pendulums. People hold up a pendulum, and well, this is a USB cable, but I'm sure it would work.
It's got
And
special
they'll
powers.
say,
Special powers.
it's got
as a
special
pendulum,
powers.
not the
This is my
USB.
computer work. Yes, my computer's working.
Yeah, I'll
They will
believe you
swing a
have
pendulum.
special powers if you're able to plug that in the right orientation more than 50% of the time.
50-50 shot.
I don't have those special powers.
So Richard,
Nevertheless,
I used to work with someone who believed pretty much every crazy piece of nonsense. But one of the things that most surprised me was he said when he was young, his brother would do water dowsing on a map, and he helped him. That people
yeah,
would send him a map in the mail. He would do a pendulum on top of it, mark the spot, and mail the map back. Have you heard of that
that's
before?
right. Map dowsing, it's called. Yes, it's very popular. You see, once somebody thinks that this system really works, then nothing is out of the question. So they'll accept that people can divine and dowse from a map and translocate that.
I got in such an argument with him about this because I didn't like, okay, if you there was some bizarre energy from the ground that moved your thing, how is this working on a paper map that you mailed across the country? And he didn't have an
Yeah,
explanation for me, but he says, I know it works.
no, it works. And that's a very big thing. I don't know how it works, but I know it works. But then people will. We have giant brains, and they get used when people try to rationalize what they believe in. Let's get back to religion. Our giant brains will rationalize any religious belief because it's what we want to believe in at the time. Now, when I was watching this video, this documentary all those years ago, and there's a big story about this documentary only this year, I'll tell you about soon. And I was interested. I didn't know what water divining was. I didn't know who James Randi was. It was just an interesting documentary for a kid on an afternoon. All the water diviners failed. Spoiler alert. I'm sorry. If you want to, guess what? They all were tested and they all failed. And they're all in the room there at the end, and they hear the results. And Randy says, of the water diviners here today, I want to see, if show of hands, how many of you still believe in water divining? And every hand shot up. And I sat there and it blew my little 15-year-old mind. I was completely gobsmacked because the whole documentary was set up. It was fair. They did the test. They all failed. To you and I, oh, it doesn't work. It clearly doesn't work. And when all their hands shot up, it was a huge revelation to me and a huge part of my early grasping of the skeptical movement and critical thinking. People will keep believing no matter what. Now, I understand why their hands went up now, because if they fail a test, our giant brains do one thing so well. Our giant brains protect our beliefs. Why did it fail? And we've seen this after decade, especially with water diviners. They will come up with excuses, if not on the spot, then shortly thereafter. The walkie-talkies involved by the film crew interfered with water divining. The fence nearby, that interfered with water divining. It gets normally, sometimes along the way, it's the skeptics cheated. That's why it didn't work. Now, try to put yourself into their way of thinking. They're doing something honestly. They're doing something for which they have strong evidence to themselves that it actually works. They've done it for years. Their father probably did it before them. They know it works. They've done it on the farm. The water comes up. So when it doesn't work, their brains will not think, gee, maybe I'm wrong. Their brains will think, it works, but it didn't work this time. What went wrong? And that is natural. You know, I would do the same thing. Let's look at an analogy. So put yourself in the same of mine. Say you can play the piano or you can play the violin. I'm sure listeners and people watching out there have guitar, whatever it is. And I said to you, I have $100,000. There's our Australian Skeptics prize money right there. I have $100,000. If you come to a mutually convenient place like a hall or something, you know, the city hall, I will give you a piece of sheet music and a guitar or a piano and a simple tune, Mary Had a Little Lamb or something like that, not too complicated. If you play that, I will give you $100,000. All right, you think, wow, easy money today. Let's go. You turn up, you get your guitar ready. There's the music, piece of cake, the chords, the piano, and you start to play and every note is wrong and it sounds terrible and nothing works. You're not going to think, gee, I've fooled myself all these years. I really can't play. You're going to think, what have they done? What's going on?
What have those nasty skeptics done to my instrument?
What have those nasty skeptics done? Now, that's going through people's minds. That's what's going through the diviners' minds all those years ago when they put their hands up. And in retrospect, I fully sympathize and understand. At the time, it was like, how silly are these people? But now it's, of course they would. It's only that we would all do that. And that is also why it's so difficult and traumatic when you're leaving something like a strongly held religious point of view. The brain is always trying to protect itself. You know, it's good that it does. If it didn't, you know, we as a species, we wouldn't have coped so well. I think these things are mostly have done us as a species very good. Now, the update. This documentary, which was pivotal for me, and it also led indirectly to the formation of Australian Skeptics, because James Randi was in Australia and he inspired the formation of Australian Skeptics, was shown for once or twice, you know, a rerun for the next year or two. And then the film was just put in a vault and left to rot. And finally, the copy aired on television was used as landfill. There was one copy left on the giant tape they used at the time, which degraded beyond repair. Luckily for us, a skeptic in 1980 or 81 happened to record it on a video cassette. And now the documentary exists because of that. And this year, with the help of a listener to the Skeptic Zone, we upgraded that to near perfect quality, because the original videotape was awful. And indeed, it had all the hairs that you get on an old film, because when they broadcast the show, it still had the glitches and the hairs and the scratches from the film they used to film it on. That's all been cleaned up. So if you want to see what I saw all those years ago, which amazed me and gave me a wonderful insight into belief, then Google James Randi in Australia, and you'll see it'll come up on YouTube. It'll say 45th anniversary edition. And I sincerely recommend you watch that. It's a wonderful documentary. It's full of great Australian characters, and it's a wonderful insight. And when you see that scene towards the end where all the hands go up, I think it'll give you a better understanding.
And by the way, I have seen that, and I don't generally believe in magic, but you did magic on the restoration. It looks like it's brand new. It's amazing. Thinking it was a VHS tape from that age.
Yeah. A lot of that was frame by frame correction of scratches and nicks and things like that. And I remixed the audio. And if you had told me in 1980 as a 15-year-old kid just watching some random show on the TV that decades later I would be responsible for life's crazy like that. But trust me, folks, when you want to think about the way humans think, and they hold on to beliefs. But being in the skeptical investigation area, there are lots of other examples. Let me give you another one. You've probably heard about firewalking. And this is used and abused by motivational speakers. They'll say, if you believe in me and you believe in what I'm saying and you can believe in yourself, then take my $20,000 course for the retreat. And at the end, your belief in yourself will be so powerful that you can walk over a hot bed of coals. Now, I've walked over a hot bed of coals, and I didn't have to believe in much anyway. I actually dug it myself for a TV show here many years ago. So we know from the scientific angle why people can walk over hot coals. It all has to do with the way that heat is conducted through the soles of the feet, and the time you step on the coals, and the length of time the heat has to transfer, and all the rest of it. It looks spectacular, but scientifically it's quite explainable. You don't need special powers. You don't need an aura. You don't need anything. You just need not to stand on the coals for too long.
You don't need to spend thousands of dollars for some motivational speaker to give you the secret, which doesn't exist.
You're giving it away, Rob.
So, a classic case of how people will believe to the point of, well, okay, so in religion, we've seen enough cases of people having psychological harm. This is where physical harm can come in. So a good friend of the skeptical movement and a dear man, Professor Richard Wiseman in the UK, in 1999, he decided to have a test, and I think it was the BBC. They showed this on the BBC about firewalking. So he put out a challenge to firewalkers, gurus in the UK. And he said, the challenge is we're going to build a bed of coals, but we're going to make it extra long. And all you have to do is just stay on. If you can stay on this length of the bed of coals, then you've shown us something remarkable. We'll have to reassess what we think. The scientific outlook prediction would be that after a certain amount of time, the heat buildup would be enough to people to burn their feet. Put out the challenge. People accepted it. And the people accepted it were firewalkers who genuinely, sincerely, really did believe that there was an energetic field or a state of mind that would make them immune to the pain and the fire, right? And I hope this is on YouTube somewhere. I've got a copy somewhere in my personal archives. So the first guy set off with cheers from the crowd. Dunk, 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 dunk. Ah! Jumped off in screaming pain, of course. Right? Confused, look on the face. And the host said, "Oh, well, never mind." And the next guy tried, thinking, "Oh, well, something must have went wrong with his thinking. I'll do it." And he dunk, 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 jumped off in pain. Now, that says a couple of things to me. One, their power of belief in the system they thought was real was so strong that they would risk injuring themselves. And the fact that the second guy went on after the first guy failed so spectacularly says a lot. And that's how powerful that system of belief can be. You believe in something so much, you're willing to do that because you think you won't get hurt or damaged. And there was a case in Australia where they've probably had similar TV shows, no matter where you're watching around the world, where the Guinness World Record people will have a TV show. They say, tonight on the Guinness World Record, we'll have the person who can eat enough eggs to throw up or something, whatever the case may be. And they had a guy in Australia, and they said, he's going to try the world record for firewalking. And credit to him, he did pretty good, longer than I think I could have. But of course, he had to jump off with burnt feet. But it gets back to how strong that belief is that they could do this.
This brings up the question to me: the people who set it up, who are the motivational people raking in the money to teach people to do this, they must know it's phony because they know how long not to make it before it won't work anymore, right?
Oh, you touch on a very interesting point, and this is where nuance comes in. It can be argued, although we know it's physics, it can be argued that the people who, at the end of their course, are brave enough to do it have accomplished something. They've overcome a fear. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, they are sold the idea. Normally, they're sold the idea it's mystical or it's special belief or something like that. I would hope there'd be some people at least who would say it's not mystical, but it's a scary thing to do. And if you can do this, I fear a lot of speakers would probably try to use you're Superman now, you're Superwoman, you can do anything, your mystical thoughts. There certainly are people who think that there are mystical aura forces protecting.
Yeah, but again, Richard, the people who are setting it up, so somebody's setting up a seminar to do this and whatever, they have to decide and lay out the coals and decide how long they can be. They must know about how long they can't
I
go
suspect
beyond.
so. Yeah, I would think you're probably right. But as I like to say to a lot of people, hey, business is business.
Well, right. If
the faith healers, business is business.
Yeah, if someone's making a large amount of money off of selling this belief, I am inclined to think that there may be, in addition to perhaps a genuine belief that it's real, there's also a vested financial interest in convincing other people of it too, right? Like,
So let's not make it too long, just in case.
Just in case, we want people to succeed at it.
Yeah. I think there was a case in Australia before I was involved in skepticism where the KFC, or it was known then Kentucky Fried Chicken managers, went on a retreat, and then there was a firework at the end, and and they all burnt their feet, and it was called Kentucky Fried Foot. Because probably the person running it got the mixture wrong. They made the coals too hot, or they got it wrong, or something like that. Now, let me talk about. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so a previous guest of ours here actually did the firewalk and burned his feet, and he did a talk about that at SciCon. Do you know who that is?
It happens. It happens.
Do you know who that is?
Not off the top of my head, no.
All right, so that's Ross Blatcher. He actually
he
showed his burning soles of his feet.
He does everything. It doesn't surprise me.
That is right. Just guess the name Ross Blatcher for any question like that.
any drinking urine, you name it.
Yeah, he did that too. He drank his own urine for weeks.
Oh no!
I'll take my hat off to him. Now let me talk about something that, when it comes to belief and hanging on to belief and why people believe, which I call the fishy cycle. And I'll get to why I call it the fishy cycle. Here's the premise. Here's the story. Put this in your mind. You go out for a day's fishing. Yeah, you got your rod and your reel and your tackle and the bait, and off you go. Oh, you're fishing away, and got a bite, and you reel it in, and it's this big. It's a little fish. Okay, you're successful, great. You go home. They say, "How was the fishing today?" Oh, I caught a fish. It was this big. It was this big. It was really. I mean, it was. You should have seen it. It's the biggest. In the retelling of a favorable story, we embellish. This happens to us all. What was the trip you were on lately? Oh, it was the best trip I ever had. The food was the best. Everything, because you had such a wonderful time, you embellish. Now, this is how a lot of what we call alt medicine practitioners do things like acupuncture, which we know doesn't work, or other such modalities, homeopathy, and even psychic readings. This is the same thing, and you'll understand why. Let's presume that the person, the psychic or the homeopath, really believe in what they're doing, and a lot of them really do, without any doubt. When a customer comes, a new client or whatever the case may be, they walk through the door, they're paying their money, they're sitting there. They haven't walked through the door and paid their money because they're skeptics, because they think this is probably not going to work. They're normally pre-sold on the idea. All right. So they have a consultation. The homeopath prescribes them a few magic sugar pills. They go away. They're probably going to feel better, not only because it's a self-limiting disease they have anyway, or it's going to fix itself regardless. They feel like they've done something proactive and they've taken real medicine to their minds. So they feel better. When they go back to that same practitioner, psychic, homeopath, chiropractor, applied kinesiologist, whatever, they're walking in the door happy. They're going to say to that practitioner, "You helped me before. I feel better." This constant reinforcement of belief to the practitioner is so powerful. No wonder they sincerely and really and genuinely believe in what they're doing. Of course they do. They're getting people coming back telling them, "Thank you. It worked. Thank you. It worked." And when that patient, let's just use the word patient, tells a friend, and the friend visits this practitioner, the friend will say, "So-and-so, Mary, Jim, Fred, whatever, said to me, you're really great. So I've come to you." We come along as skeptics and say, "Oh, by the way, this thing you use, this homeopathy, it doesn't work." Why on earth would they listen to us when they know from direct experience it works? This is where, and we're talking about why beliefs hang on. This is not just a belief. This is tangible to them, reinforceable, direct, irrefutable evidence. And again, I always say to people, please try to put yourself in those persons' frame of mind. They're not being stupid. They're not being silly. Okay, from our point of view, they're being possibly naive. You could argue they haven't done their homework. They haven't done their due diligence to really investigate what they're doing. But their everyday experiences tell them how it works, how it definitely and without doubt works.
And it's certainly not being less intelligent.
The belief is just almost unshakable at that point of view. In fact, I think, Rob, you probably know that there are some cases, and we get back to religion again, people do come to another point of view, but it's difficult.
So one of the founders of the modern skeptical movement, which I'm sure Richard also knows, Ray Hyman. I got to meet him just once, right? You know his backstory. So basically, he was doing palm reading as a teenager. You want to tell that story? You much know it better than I do. Go ahead.
Yes. There's a wonderful documentary. Again, we hark back to James Randi. James Randi, I've only ever had a book by him somewhere. Oh, yeah, here we go.
Is it
Looking
Flim
at his
Flam?
library.
It's not.
The Faith Healers.
Faith Healers.
I think I see Flim Flam
Flim
behind you. Yeah.
Flim Flam. There it is.
Oh,
no, I
excellent.
say, look, I said, I wonder if I've got a book by James Randi. I said, looking at my library of books by James Randi.
Amazing. Oh, that's great.
So,
I don't think I've read that one that you just pulled out, though. I'm gonna have to
oh, the
add
faith
that to
healers.
my
Oh, oh,
Goodreads list.
Every week,
okay.
Cara gets a new book on their
I'm
list.
excited.
You
The
So
you
is
faith
this
want
healers. Okay.
was this one of his later ones, Richard?
mid, you know.
Right.
Look, I I don't run around recommending books willy nilly. That book is that is one of the best books when you're looking at the scam of the faith healers when it comes to religious
Yeah.
scams. That's the classic.
Oh,
So,
I'm gonna
getting
grab
back
that
to Ray
one.
Hyman. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
getting back to Ray Hyman. Uh, and why I mentioned James Randi. They were about the same height and the same age. That's truly they're the same. I mean, Ray's still going. So there's a wonderful documentary free to watch on YouTube. Please watch it. It's called Secrets of the Psychics with James Randi. It was on Nova public television, I think it was. It was on Nova. I mean, I don't watch these things willy-nilly. They're really important. And watch it. Please watch it because there's a great interview with Ray Hyman. And he tells the story how he was working his way through college, if I remember, doing palm reading. And he got really good at it. And then it occurred to him one day, to tell the opposite to the client that he thought he saw in the hand.
Yeah, I think
And
a
the
friend of his
client,
actually disputed that it was true and
yeah,
suggested he do that, I think.
I think that's right. I can't quite remember the exact story.
Yeah.
So he did it. And wow, the client still responded, oh, that's amazing. That's right. And then the penny really dropped for Ray Hyman. Excuse me. But that's another classic example. Now when you're talking about the psychic industry, the psychic biz, which is my specialty, we call these props. Astrology, palm reading, teacup reading, any sort of divination like that is what we call props. Or we say we're playing the same tune on a different instrument. It goes something like this. Oh, I see by your lifeline here that you can be, it says here, you can be the life of the party, but other times you like to be private and, you're a bit of an introvert. Oh, an Aries with a Taurus in your second house. I can see by this, but you can be the life of a party, but sometimes you like to be a bit introverted. Oh, look at this teacup here. It says, oh, it's got this shape. Well, people who make this shape can be the life of,
It's
it's a
like
prop. It's
everyone's
all a prop.
Bumble profile. I like to go out, but I also like staying in.
Now that in the psychology of what we call cold reading and hot reading, which is a psychic reading, that's called the rainbow rouge. They've all got names. It's all very technical. That's when you give somebody characteristics of the whole rainbow. You this one or this one. It's like saying, well, you've got long hair, but short hair too. So which one is it? Come on.
Yeah, at some
There's
point, you
also
may have
things
had
that
longer hair than you do now,
are,
or shorter.
but now I showed you guys something before, but I'll have to bring it up now. So many years ago, I was on a TV show where I was a judge. I was the skeptical judge on a show that the contestants were all said they had psychic powers. And one of the crazy things they had to do was they had to look at a series of sledgehammers and tell which one had been used in anger. So what? It doesn't make sense. So what they did was they filmed this big burly muscle builder guy with a black shirt on and muscles everywhere, and he got this sledgehammer, and he got to beat an old car up with it, but he had to be angry while he was doing it. So they said to him, the TV people said, now just think angry thoughts and beat up this car. Okay, rah, 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 rah. All right. And then they had 6 other sledgehammers, and it's hard, you lose things in the midst of times. But I think they said to him, now use this sledgehammer and beat the car up, but think happy thoughts. Okay. So the psychics on the show had to use their magic powers to determine which sledgehammer had been used with anger.
Oh
And
no.
and so the
The
production,
sledgehammer would have some kind of aura to it or something?
And here's one of the hammers actually used on the show. Oops.
Oh,
This
are
was
you gonna tell us if it was the
number
angry
7.
hammer or one of the other ones?
Oh, look at that. You can see where it was all beaten up and scarred and everything. Now this is one of the happy hammers.
Oh, good. I'm glad you
Or
haven't
maybe,
brought that bad
or,
juju into your home.
yeah,
Just
or
kidding.
maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe it was some people on the production crew then got the other hammers and scuffed them up to make it look like they've been used. I can't remember exactly.
Wait. I thought you
um,
said all of the hammers were actually used to destroy cars just with happy thoughts or bad thoughts.
You know, because this is many years ago, and I'm just trying to
Ah.
reconstruct in my own mind the sequence of events. It doesn't matter too much. One hammer was used in anger, the others weren't. Right. And now you think, oh, this is just silliness. But the people involved in the show, most of them, I think, really thought that they could use their special powers to determine which hammer had been used in anger. And the whole thing about why people cling on to their beliefs and why they're so convinced. And there's another great analogy, which I've been reminded about thinking about James Randi, is that when you go and see a magic show and you know it's a magic show, you can still be amazed. Of course, why, it'd be a pretty terrible magic show if you didn't walk away thinking, how did that happen? I can't believe it. And what happened with magic is certain people since forever have been using magic tricks to fool other people into thinking they have genuine psychic ability.
Uri Geller.
Here we go. There's no more classic example than spoon bending. Oh, look, there's my computer. How about that?
But Richard, there is no spoon.
What spoon? Now I can give everybody watching a quick lesson on how to do it. It's really easy. It's all an illusion. It's an optical illusion. Now, if everybody happens watching, if you just grab a pen, and this one is a particularly interesting pen that's from the Tropicana in Las Vegas, which no longer exists, and that was torn down. But that's where the last amazing meeting was. What have you got, Rick? Oh, very good. All right. So you see school kids do this. If you hold the pen near the end, sort of, and I don't know how well this will work on the camera, but we can try, and you give it a little wiggle, it looks like it's turning into rubber. Well, it certainly does in real life. Yeah. There we go. Now the thing is, of course, it's not rubber, but it looks like it's rubber because your brain can't, and your eyes can't keep up with the motion quick enough. But you can do the same with a spoon. I know everybody at home doesn't have a spoon they can grab at the moment. But if you do that with a spoon, hang on, ow, you can get the same sort of effects, magic, psychic powers. And you can start, see that?
Ooh, it's bending.
See that? And that takes a lot of practice, of course, to just get the wiggle.
So that's an optical illusion, you're saying, huh?
Yeah. But it really, oh, hang on. Whoa. Oh, shit. Oh.
Wow.
Now, Cara, there is no spoon.
Yes, there was a spoon. There's not now.
All right.
Good scrap piece.
Now I've done that trick for a long time. And I've seen.
So you have the same telekinesis powers as Uri Geller. This is amazing, Richard.
I would have to say yes, I do. But I've seen people gasping, and there are many variations to that trick where you can actually get. Wait a minute, let me make this spoon better. No, that's fixed. You can get a spoon to bend seemingly when somebody else is holding it. You give the spoon to somebody and they're holding it tight, and then when they open their hands, the spoon is bent. Now, if you don't know how a good trick is done, it can seem like divine magic power. It really can. And that principle has been misused by unscrupulous people to con other people, and Randy was always very angry about this because magicians shouldn't do this. They should say it's a trick. Let's all have a good time. But once that belief system is in somebody, because they saw it with their own eyes, and the best example of this I can tell you is years ago, I did a talk show with the president of the Australian Psychics Association. And, the typical talk show, there's the host and there's a couple of chairs and I'm one guest and the psychic president is another guest. And he's saying to the audience, he knows spoon bending works. The skeptics, they don't know what they're talking about. He knows Geller, he knows it works. So me, all right, would you? And I did the whole routine. I got the spoon and blah, 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 started and bent and broke on the floor. And I could see the gears in his head going like he was in real distress. And this is true. After the show had finished and we were just chatting, I said, look, you of all people should know how this trick works. You might be the president of the psychics, but heavens above, you should know if it's something's fake. And I showed him the trick and I said, this is how it's done. This is how it's done. And he said, well, that's how it's done. But, I saw Geller did it. And when he did it, it was real.
Oh,
okay?
my goodness.
Because
yeah, go ahead.
That's his worldview, right?
I got to interview Penn of Penn and Teller, and I got talking about, this issue of belief. And he said he and Teller, so Penn and Teller would stand outside their show after it's over, and they would take questions from the audience and allow people to come up. And he said almost weekly there is somebody who says, how did you do so-and-so trick? And they go, well, of course I can't tell you. And they go, I know how you did it. You have magic powers. And he goes, no, come on, man, it's a trick. No, then tell me how you did it. I'm not going to tell you how. Then I know you have magic powers and you don't want anyone to know that.
Yeah.
If you had magic powers and you didn't want anyone to know about it, why would you do magic tricks in public? Come on.
Well, that's right. That's right. So,
Okay.
I mean, to sort of encompass where I'm coming from and in my years of experience in the skeptical business, what we have to do is we have to keep in mind that, yes, there are con sharks, there are charlatans. And the best example of an outright charlatan I can think of would be the psychic surgeons. Now, and I say that because I don't know if you're familiar, if people watching are instantly familiar with what I mean. You may have seen it on TV or something where somebody's lying down and somebody else will put their hands on the stomach, usually a fleshy area, do this, and suddenly it looks like the body's opening and they put their hands in and they retrieve organs and there's lots of blood and then they mop it up. Now, no spoilers, of course, and let's all live in the real world for a second. That, of course not. That's buffoonery. You can't just alter physics like that by thinking about it. And solid hands do not pass through flesh. It doesn't happen. This is not a case of, oh, let's be open-minded. Maybe it happens. It's like, no. You have to learn that. It's a series of maneuvers you have to do using sleight of hand and other props in order to make that happen. So there are various things we'll look at. And this spoon bending where the spoon, it's getting wiggly. Look at that. You have to learn the trick. You can't just accidentally do it. My God, look, it's doing something. So there are cases where we say, no, these people are cons. They're shonks, they're sharks. They're using magic trick to make money. They're exploiting people. That's a series, that's a subcategory. And then there's another category which the media tend to ignore because it doesn't make for a good story, is the people who sincerely believe. They don't bend spoons and they don't do that sort of stuff, but the homeopaths, for example, or some faith healers who just want the power of God or Jesus to help somebody. And we must treat them differently. Sometimes it's hard to tell one from the other. So under the guise of powerful belief, we get people willing to endanger other people for a buck, because to some people, business is business. That's just what they, this is another person to exploit for my business opportunity. I couldn't imagine a more interesting field to be in than what I do, because it encompasses so much, and it's a true adventure into psychology and belief, and why people believe, and why we have to be so careful when talking about their deeply held beliefs, because they might have them for very good reasons. All the homeopaths out there who prescribe homeopathy with goodness in their heart have goodness in their heart. They're not out to endanger other people. So I just think that's such a fascinating area.
So I would think that would be more likely with some people than others. Like you have to know that you're, doing a magic trick if you're doing psychic surgery, for example.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. You have to know. You can't accidentally do it. You can't do it. Oh, I think I'm going to try this with good intentions. Oh, look, the body's opening up. Oh, look, here's their liver.
Yeah. I looked this up while you were talking, because I thought I remembered. I didn't want to misspeak. And yeah, Andy Kaufman, the comedian actor, I don't think I don't think he had a chance anyway. From what I just read quickly, he was on his last legs anyway. But he flew to the Philippines to have psychic surgery done because he was
apparently. Peter Sellers did too.
Wow, that's sad that people are spending money and putting their lives and health in danger for that. But I think you've done a really good job of making the point of so many people, may genuinely believe this kind of thing, and how it may seem to them to really be accurate in their experience if they're seeing it over and over again, confirming what they're hoping for. If you had to guess, Richard, could you just, I know it would just be a guess, but like, what percentage of people do you think in the general population are walking around believing something, truly believing something that, would fall into the category of what we've been talking about, something that is just kind of on its face, this is a magic trick, this is, a conspiracy theory, or, homeopathy or something like that, some kind of belief that there really is no evidentiary basis for if you were to dig into it?
I would have to a pure guesswork, educated guesswork. Oh, I don't know. I'd have to say above 60 or 70%. I would expect 75%. But I am talking about a huge range of things, for everything from an alternative medicine practice to maybe a conspiracy theory or something like that.
So, Richard, you go to these events and you talk about them a lot on your podcast.
Yes,
mind body wallet.
Wallet, mind body wallet. That's right.
But yeah, they call it mind body spirit, and you
they call it mind body spirit. I call it mind body wallet.
There's a whole range of people there selling their wares. So you want to talk about those kinds of things?
Yeah, and I recommend everybody of a skeptical mindset, if you can go to a spiritual expo or mind body spirit, they have it in Australia. I'm sure there's similar things all around the world. Then you owe it to yourself to go and not be a pain in the ass and say that doesn't work. Ha ha. You go and you look and you learn and you ask, oh, how does it work? And it gives you a wonderful insight into the thinking of these people. I go every 6 months because this is my business. I'm in the business of knowing what's out there and what people are believing in, or what the current thing is. And quite often we find health products which are just laughable. Like the current one that we discovered, I went with a team of people a month back or something, is a little patch about the size of a quarter, which you put it on the back of your neck, and the blurb, the promise is that it will use your body's own heat to bounce back infrared light and stimulate your stem cells.
Wow.
All right. And the people who were there have invested in it financially, and they've invested in it emotionally because they've been told some story by somebody who they think is probably genuine. It's a breakthrough. The government don't want you to know about it. It's based on NASA technology. It's scientifically proven to work. This is all the stuff they've been told to say. And the people at the top thinking, great, business is business.
And one of
That's
your
why I
team,
go to these things.
and one of your team was told, as I recall, that they didn't have any stem cells, right?
Yeah. Now, if you listen to the Skeptic Zone podcast, which I know you all do every week,
Of course.
our relatively new reporter is a pharmacist by the name of Kate Thomas, and she's doing a great job. And she was there to go along to investigate. And she said, "Oh, what's this all about?" And they told her, and then I wasn't there on the spot, but I guess they determined somehow that she didn't have stem cells. So, which
Wow.
you can imagine when a pharmacist goes to these things, or a scientist, and they're hearing this stuff, it's like, what? That's why I recommend every skeptic or critical thinker go. If you've got to pay $10, pay $10. It's worth it for your own education. And ask questions. I mean, I have with me here. Here we go. This is from the last one I did. I pick up business cards. Look at that.
Soulful
Psychic medium, Reiki master, and development mentor. Ooh.
Wow.
Soulful creations.
And I scan these because it's quick and easy to scan something and put it into a file. So I have thousands and thousands and thousands of files, and psychics and healers and mystics and readings and what have you. Here we go. Here's another one. This business includes things like chiropractic, applied kinesiology, and on and on and on and on.
Of course.
So there you go.
So would you say that going to these kinds of things is actually an exercise in, I don't know, honing your critical thinking skills? Do you think this helps inoculate people against being taken in by a belief like this?
Yeah, because the more I know and the more the skeptical movement know about what we're talking about, the better it is. Because we will always be accused of being armchair skeptics. Just sitting at home, smoking a pipe, saying, "Oh, I don't think that works." I've got a pipe here somewhere. I should bring it out. And we have to then turn around and say, "No, here's why. Here's why. Here's why." Hey. I've been there. I've had the reading. I've got the evidence. I'm not just sitting at home thinking this. I don't want to believe in this. Now, sadly for me, as I get older and my hair gets grayer, I'm turning into the caricature of an old man who's a skeptic. I used to be a young man who's a skeptic. So this is not good. But anyway, we do the best we can.
So we're getting close to the end of the show, and I'd be reticent to not have you talk a little bit about the Great Australian Psychic Prediction Project.
Oh. A topic close to your heart, Rob. In fact, I think you've given more talks about this than I have. Rob was part of an international team. I guess we met for over a year.
Led by Richard, who worked on it incessantly for many, 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 many years.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard about this, if you Google the Great Australian Psychic Prediction Project, it'll come up. We gathered nearly 4,000 psychic predictions that were published in Australia over a 20-year period. And Rob and myself and our international team, week after week, analyzed every last one. It was a colossal undertaking, and we then had a very strong conclusion and data points that we could point to and say, after all this effort, after collecting thousands of these predictions, which we have cataloged, we can look at that and say that psychics are no better than predicting the future than anybody else. But we had to go through that huge process in order to say that. You can't just say it. It might be the truth, but you can't just say it because it's very hollow. Now we can say it with authority, and here's the evidence. So that's why that was so
one of the biggest projects like that. I think it's often you'll see occasionally some group will talk about the set of predictions that were made in a newspaper the previous year, and it's a few people, but not. We had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people professing to have these abilities, and as you said, thousands and thousands of thousands that we went through for months and months and months. I think it was.
Oh, it was a huge project, and I think it was over a year. But when we got stuck into it, we realized that you can't just do this every now and then and finish. There was a team
Right.
of dedicated people who met week after week after week after week after week, and when it was all over,
It was during it was during the lockdown, so we had nothing else to
Yes.
do.
But when it was all over, we were very sad. When we finally got to the last one, it was like we got to the last
Can't we do
one.
another country? Can't we do America? Because it's got a larger population than Australia, but that would take decades.
Yeah.
So,
It's
and
always
by the way,
good to repeat
none
your
other than
studies.
Seth Andrews had Richard and I on to talk about this.
That's right. Yes.
It caught his eye. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put
So
the
again,
link to that episode.
if you Google the Great Australian Psychic Prediction Project, you can read it because we published it, and on my show, the Skeptic Zone, with the help of Adrian Hill, one of my reporters, we read the whole thing so people could just listen to the results.
Yeah, and I'm going to drop a link to the Skeptic Zone as well.
Thank you.
And since we are getting close to the end of our time, in addition to the Skeptic Zone, where else can people find you or your work if they want to know more?
If they want to know more, the Skeptic Zone is probably the best place to go, skepticzone.tv. Or if you go to the website of Australian Skeptics, which is skeptics.com.au, you can find out more there. But I guess the Skeptic Zone's the quickest one to go to.
Okay. Well, great. Thanks for sharing that. We'll definitely check that out. And before we wrap up, we do have time, I think, maybe for one audience question that we'll ask here in a second. But is there anything that you want to touch on or leave us with before we go to questions?
Yeah, I think I've covered it all in what I had to say. Don't be scared as a skeptic or a critical thinker to venture to see what the other side are doing. You owe it to yourself. If you want to talk about the other side of the equation, at least see what's going on, and try to understand why people believe. People don't just believe because they've got nothing better to do. There are very many complex reasons for belief. And we've all seen that in religion, where we know mostly it's because that's the society, the bit of society you grew up in, the family believe in this, or your group. But generally speaking, when it comes to psychics and whatever I deal with, there are lots of reasons why people believe. And just remember again that a lot of people believe for sincere reasons.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. I'm glad you've left us with that because it can be easy to get into we talk about people having their angry atheist phase where, they realize that, maybe they have been told things that are not exactly accurate. And they're understandably upset about it. And it's easy to ascribe bad intentions to people that have done things that had negative consequences for
Yeah.
us.
It,
Uh,
it's such a complex area. It's so as
yeah.
Rob knows, it's complex. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that kind of piece of it and letting us know that, we're all susceptible to being taken in. And so that actually leads me to one question that someone asked. I know you're not going to tell us the secret of your spoon bending technique, but maybe this won't give too much away. Someone was wondering, why is it always a spoon? Could you do it with a fork?
The answer is
Ooh.
yes. I don't have one handy, but oh yes. Oh my goodness me. Spoons. Why spoons? I don't know. They look funny. I mean,
I think
a spoon
Geller
is a funny thing.
just had a bunch of extra spoons and he decided to
Yeah.
start using them. So as you have said, Richard, about if psychic powers really existed, the world would be very different, right? I would
Yes.
say the same. It's with telekinesis, the ability to bend metal, right? Because if somebody
Yes.
could do that, how could Uri Geller ever fall asleep on an airplane? What if he dreams of bending the turbine blade in the engine? There goes the plane. I mean, if you could do that with your mind, it would be a dangerous planet.
Good. You make a good point. A quick story. You're probably all familiar with the medium psychic John Edward of the TV fame, and he talks to the dead. He came to Australia he's been coming to Australia for over 20 years. He was here 20 years ago, and I happened to be in the studio audience of a TV show he was doing. And during the ad break, he was chatting to the host, and he said, you know, something to the effect of the TV was flickering, you know, in the studio. And he said, oh yeah, that happens all the time when I'm around. You know, it's my psychic energy, the TV's flicker, and I can disrupt, you know, electronics and whatever. And I thought to myself, and they let you fly on a
Yeah.
commercial
Yeah.
airplane?
And
Huh?
you have to shut your phones and put them in airplane mode, but no, he can go.
That's right. Please put your psychic in airplane mode before we take off, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. Well, on that note, don't forget to put your psychic in airplane mode and be skeptical. Thank you so much, Richard, for spending your time with us this evening and sharing your insights. This was really educational, and I'm glad to know that the trick works with forks as well as spoons. So we've learned a lot.
And in the 5 years we've been doing this, I think that was the first, well, I'll say either magic trick or actually paranormal ability we've ever seen on the show.
Wow, we're
Well,
all
who knows?
converts.
Which one could it be? Who
Which
knows?
one?
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for joining us. And don't forget everybody to join us again next week, same time, same channel. We're gonna have our annual holiday party episode next week, so be sure and join us for that. You know, maybe we'll have some of our annual Festivus programming with some airing of grievances, and I think we had feats of strength last year. I think that might have been trivia questions. We'll see what we come up with. Feats of mental strength. Maybe we'll have an opportunity for magic tricks in the hangout. But join us; it'll be a good time. And that'll be our last episode of the year. We'll have 1 week off after that, and then we'll start right back up again, same time, same channel in January. So keep on coming back. And for more information about recovering from religion and to access our other resources, you can visit our website at recoveringfromreligion.org. And you can find resources like getting in touch with a volunteer on our helpline, attending a support group, looking at our resources that are available online, visiting the blog, listening to the podcast, or even getting connected with a licensed mental health care professional. And you can also apply to be a volunteer yourself. So join us there, check out the resources, come back next week. And Rob, where can people find us on the social medias?
All over the place. Linktree, it's Recovering from Religion. Facebook, it's Recovering from Religion. Instagram, it's RfRorg for some reason. TikTok, it's Recovering from Religion. Blue Sky, recoveringfromreligion.org. And you can find, these links to our YouTube show also on our YouTube channel on the RfRx playlist. Lastly, we want everyone to know that RFR is staffed entirely by volunteers. And we've learned that personal healing can result from helping others to heal. So if you're so inclined and in a position to do so, we'd love for you to join our team. To apply, fill out the form on our main page. Just click the volunteer tab. And speaking of volunteers, please check out the new playlist on the Recovering from Religion YouTube channel, which is named RFR Deconstruction Stories. Each episode features an interview with a volunteer sharing their story of their own deconstruction journey. Episodes include some folks RfRx viewers may be familiar with, including Glenda, Daniel, Gail, and none other than Kara. Kara was a guinea pig, actually.
Yes, yeah, you can tell we were dealing with the tech issues, but it was a lot of fun. I had a great time doing it. I'm looking forward to listening to other folks' deconstruction stories too, so
We
I
have
highly recommend it.
nine so far, and other people scheduled, so the list is building.
Excellent. Well, on that note, it is about time to wrap up, and I am so pleased to welcome our fabulous executive director, Gail Jordan, to wrap us up with some final closing thoughts. It's not a benediction, since I don't think Gail is a high priestess of the flying spaghetti monster, unless I'm very much mistaken, but correct me if I'm wrong,
No,
Gail.
you are correct. I am not the high priestess. I have to defer to others for that role. Thank you for inviting me on, Richard. This was fascinating. I have learned
Thank
some
you.
new words. I learned map dowsing, and I learned doodle bugging, and I learned that there are happy hammers and angry hammers. This has been entirely educational. So thank you so much. I want to confess something. I'm a little bit embarrassed about it, but you know, you live and learn. When I first deconverted, and I was interested in connecting to the secular community, I chose to go to TAM. I believe the first year I went to TAM was in 2011 and met James Randi, and it was awesome. But honestly, before I made that journey, I didn't know what did skepticism have to do with my deconstruction. Like I said, I'm not very proud of that. I was embarrassed about it, but I truly couldn't put the two together. Um, I can't even hardly explain it now. When I did my interview with Rob for the deconstruction stories, I found myself speechless in being able to explain what the issue was. And this one, why wouldn't I have thought to connect skepticism with discarding supernatural beliefs? But I didn't. So I learned. So it was a fantastic time. I came to this community through the deconstruction side, not through the skepticism side, but the skepticism piece has introduced me to a whole universe of speakers and philosophy and all of the things that that skepticism brings to the conversation about how we know what is real and how we form our beliefs. And what you've presented tonight helps us to understand why our task here at Recovering from Religion is sometimes challenging, because we are so devoted to those beliefs. We are so vested in them, and not just because of the emotional drama that accompanies all that, the fractured communities and the loss of the belief in a supernatural parent who cares about us, but more, it's almost beyond our grasp what our brains have done to us and how our brain is working to protect those belief systems that we have to overcome.
Yep.
You've done a fantastic job of explaining all that.
Thank you.
So thank you again for joining us. Thank you to our RFR crew, everybody behind the camera, in front of the camera, the post-production folks, the social media folks, the marketing folks. And that brings me to the last thing that I want to talk about. We often make a plea for volunteers at Recovering from Religion. And sometimes I forget, it looks like, because some of our bigger projects, we have the support groups. And that is whether it's virtual or in person, that requires a lot of training in order to be able to do that. We have our helpline. Those are real high profile, and it does require a lot of training. But there are so many jobs at Recovering from Religion. If you don't want to do those two big things, there are so many other things that you can do. We have an entire social media and graphics team. We'd love to have you be part of that. You never have to have a conversation with someone who's deconstructing. You never have to have those triggering conversations or that kind of thing. You never have to lead a support group. But there are so many areas of opportunity of service that we would love for you to come in. The process is protracted. We admit that. There's an interview, there's an application, there's a whole training process, but that's actually the great part, because you get to learn why we do what we do and how we do what we do, and then you can plug into a place where you're most comfortable and where you're most gifted. I hope everybody comes back next week. It's one of our favorite shows of the year when we have our annual Christmas party. You may bring your cocktail of choice. I will be bringing mine. I think it has a little bit to do with cranberry and a lot to do with vodka, and I will be there. So I hope that you'll be able to join us next week. And if and we hope to see you there. And then I think Kara, they may have said that we have a break and then we pick it right back up again in January. I hope I have that right. Thank
Yep,
you again for
that's
coming.
correct.
We'll see you next week. Richard, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Richard. And thank you, everybody, for being here. And with that, I will just remind everyone, if you're watching this live and you want to continue the conversation tonight, join us over in Zoom for the post-show hangout. I've dropped the link in the chat if you're on YouTube. So just click that and you can join us in Zoom. And that's it for this week's episode of RfRx, your weekly dose of doubt done right. And remember, critical thinking is not a symptom, it's a part of the cure. So thanks, everybody. See you
Thank
next
you
week.
again, Richard.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.